The Auburn Tigers are victorious down in Baton Rouge, taking down the LSU Tigers on an SEC road trip by the score of 74-87, continuing their tirade through the SEC and all of college basketball as the #1 team. We're going to get into the score, the stats, and the storylines. All that's coming up here right now. Well, there you go, everybody, and welcome back to another edition of E2C Network Live, where we discuss the Auburn experience. That Auburn experience we discuss as Auburn sports, Auburn culture, Auburn family stuff. An easier way to say it for you, though, is if it's orange and blue, it's what we do. So we thank you so much for joining us in what we're going to do in this particular stream this evening if you're watching live. And if you're watching on the replay, whenever you get an opportunity to watch or listen to this. We are talking about the Auburn Tigers beating the LSU Tigers on the road in Baton Rouge and getting another SEC road win. We'll cover the main three things that you need to know right off the top here. The score, 87-74. Your Tigers are victorious. The big stat that I have for you tonight, and you could pick a ton of them, especially defensive stats tonight, but I'll point out an obvious one to you. Steals. 15 total steals, which led to a couple other cool stat lines we're going to discuss, but I'll point that one out. 15 steals for the Tigers on the road tonight in hostile territory. And of course, your storyline, Janai Broome is back in the starting lineup, and boy, does he show that he deserves to be there, and he's feeling quite all right. So that is your score, your big stat, and your big storyline. We're going to get into much more here in this stream. What we'd love for you to do, start the show off on a good note. Make sure that you smash that like button. You can also let us know where you're watching from. Post your city, your state, international with a War Eagle. That is always a humongous help to us. Lets us know who's here, who's live, all that kind of stuff. And of course, throughout the stream, offer your commentary, questions, topics, and we'll bring them up as appropriate throughout our stream, talking about this 87-74 win for the Tigers in Baton Rouge. Boy, oh boy, I think it got a little bit scary there at the beginning. Just kind of opening thoughts here. Obviously, a very sloppy first 2 or 3 minutes where Auburn was just turning the ball over. So was LSU, frankly. I think if you couple that with what at times appeared to be an overachieving LSU Tiger team in the three-point arc, in the grand scheme of things, maybe not as deadly as it looked at times. But those two things together, the way they kind of punched Auburn in the mouth to start with, and they continued to attack with their three-point shot, things got a little bit hairy at times. But the great thing is it's not about how you start, it's about how you finish the game. And the Tigers end up winning by 13 points tonight. And ironically, if I remember correctly, I don't focus on lines and things like that, but I think the line was something like 14.5 or something. So just under that. I did predict when I was asked on a different stream that we do on mid in the middle of the week on in the middle of the day, would I take the under? And I did. So I guess I'm right after all, if you care about such things, but there you go. 87-74. We like to go through individual stats, team stats. Within all that, we'll talk about the different storylines, but I'd love to know what's on y'all's minds, what you're thinking about, what you want to celebrate. A good way to start off with, since we usually start in individual stats tonight, is to talk about who is your player of the game. Another night, I think, where it is pretty obvious if you just look at the stats. So that's how I'd love for you to start off. Just, you can type in player of the game or POTG. I had to think about it for a second. POTG and the name. Give me that. Even if it's simple, if it's obvious, just put it in there. And then we can start certainly talking about players that deserve some big shout outs tonight. And I think there's someone that we don't get to talk about a whole lot just because of playing time, but we certainly need to give him his due this evening. So we'll get there. And maybe some of you are already thinking about it, already talking about it. Do want to give you all that are starting to check in here, big shout outs that come here often, early, are ready to roll and talk about things. Devin brings up the point that opening possession was absolutely crazy. I think it was Justin Hokanson who put out there that Auburn had like 5 or maybe it was 6 turnovers within the first few minutes of the game, just how crazy that was going back and forth. But they really, frankly, looking at turnovers for them, kind of locked it down for the rest of the game. So it didn't get too bad, but Auburn, at one point, it looked like Auburn was going to have to say survives on the road at LSU. This ended up not being a survival thing. It was really Auburn needed to establish itself, get control of the game, kind of hold off some of those runs that Auburn was having, or excuse me, LSU was having throughout the game, and then kind of just reassert itself. Isn't it nice to see, Janai Broome doing what Janai Broome does best? So many of you already been talking about that. We've got a player of the game for CBM. We've got a CBM, I think, a couple of other Brooms popping in here as well. Definitely, there's some other players that deserve recognition, but let's start right off at the top. And I think Unbeaten Lake even puts it well here. Broome with 26 points, and he's still not 100%. Definitely looks a lot better out there this evening. He gets the start, but I think more so us as fans and probably coaches and his teammates too. Every time we see him get tangled up in a scrum or tripped over and other players, we're going to start kind of worrying about that just a little bit. But it's not seeming to phase him. 26 points, 10 for 23 from the field. So he almost doubles up anybody else in attempts from the field. So you can tell Auburn still feels comfortable going to him when he's not even at 100%. He doesn't make any of his 3-pointers tonight, only 2 of them, but he's 6 for 7 from the free throw line. 16 rebounds, only 2 personal fouls, 2 turnovers in 33 minutes of play, leading the way. So he may not be 100% in terms of how that ankle is feeling strong, but his performance does not in any way show that he is not playing he's playing 100%, even if he's not feeling 100%. 26 points, 16 rebounds, another double-double. There's continues to be this debate about who is the player of the year and such at this point, and certainly it's nice to see Janai starting to reestablish himself in that conversation after being out for quite some time. Let's see here. Life as the number 1 team is not good for your heart as teams play you harder. I agree. But this is what comes with the territory of being the best team in the land. The great thing is that Auburn right now is getting to enjoy that fun ride, even though you're getting everybody's best. And I tried to tell so many of you all this, whether it's here on YouTube or in Facebook where we do our main streams, but obviously we do some TikTok streams. I continue to have people that, are here frequently and talk down about opponents. And I'm telling you, you have to take every SEC team seriously this year, even if it's on your home court. Hopefully that becomes less of a stressful thing, more quickly when you're at home. But when you're at their place, LSU came ready to play, ready to start. Auburn's just too much for them. And they've got some talented players. Carter tonight, Auburn didn't really have too much of an answer for him with 24 points, 7 from 9 from the field. Makes all his 3-pointers, got to the free throw line a ton. I mean, Auburn really didn't have too much of an answer to figure out how to stop him. Thankfully, none of his other teammates really made too big of dividends. They only had one other player in double digits tonight. Let's see here. Where are we at in the chat? Trying to see if anybody else wants to bring up some players here. Michael brings up this conversation. We'll certainly talk about Pettiford now, but I'm going to disagree with you, sir, just because one player is doing certainly well in another area. He says that Pettiford should start. Whoever the coach determines needs to start is who should start, frankly. And you don't want to really mess up a good thing going right now. We had this conversation a lot when Zep Jasper was here. People would start screaming, this person needs to start over Zep Jasper, and they ignore the what he brings to the table in other assets of the game. And I'm going to continue to say that here. Still very happy for Pettiford. Now, Pettiford tonight, 10 points and 4 for 12 from the field, 3 rebounds, 2 assists. So pretty solid night for him. Not an outstanding night, but pretty solid in 23 minutes of play. He is another person in double digit. Auburn has 4 total players in double digits this evening. Your next highest scorer was Miles Kelly, who really got Auburn going this evening and really kind of punched LSU in the mouth as they were punching Auburn in the mouth, he helped us not let this get out of hand early with some of his 3-pointers, other shots. We think of Miles Kelly as just a 3-point shooter, the general fan populace does, but he's so much more than that. And he is, he's been very crucial, I feel like. I think sometimes he fades a little bit in games in terms of like points and stuff like that. When I say fades, that sounds bad. Please don't hear it that way. But obviously, Janai starts taking over, and other players like CBM gets going too. But Miles has a way of just stepping up at the right moment and just being a dagger to people, as we saw in the last game. 13 total points for him tonight, 3 rebounds, 1 assist. Chad Baker is your third highest scorer today, 11. So 3 for 12 from the field. It wasn't an amazing night for him overall. He does get 7 assists leading the team, though. So your leading assist getter is Chad Baker Mazar. Your leading scorer and rebounder is Janai Broome. No shockers there that we're talking about the two of them. Let's see here. Where are we at in the chat? Anything else about players that you guys want to particularly talk about from this specific game? Making sure we didn't miss anything. Those were your double-digit scorers. The rest of the scoring tonight individually for Auburn. Denver Jones with 9. He also had a pretty clutch 3 there late in the game. You have Dylan Cardwell with 4. It's kind of like his mainstay. He is good for a high energy 4 to 6, somewhere in there. Then Chaney Johnson with 7. And this is where I want to talk about a little bit, because maybe someone's brought it up and I missed it. But let's note this. Turtle is his nickname. Jaheim Hudson Turtle. Jaheim Turtle Hudson is his nickname. He has what I am going to call for him and what we traditionally see outstanding play tonight. He was effective. He was efficient. And when I read his stat line off to you, you're not going to go like, that's the most amazing thing ever. But he's a guy that doesn't see a ton of playing time outside of kind of a spot fill in here or when someone's injured like Janai has been. But he's a very crucial part of this rotation. And he gets rewarded tonight. 7 points for him. He knocks down his only 3-pointer he shoots tonight. He's 100% from the field, 3 for 3, 2 rebounds, 1 assist, 2 personal fouls, and 9 minutes of play. Pretty dang good. I was a big Turtle fan tonight. And again, you have a lot of this evening. At least I felt like there were a lot of times that Auburn had some, what you would call role players, really make shots or create an opportunity at the right time. So it really was nice to see a lot of that going on this evening. Kevin points out that I thought we closed the game well tonight. This goes back to how we started off the show talking about it's not really about how you start the game. It's about how you finish. And I think definitely you could categorize this as a strong finish for Auburn on the road. Don't forget about that. It's easy to finish in a strong way when you've got the crowd behind you, when you're comfortable with your sight lines and stuff, but you're doing this on the road against an upstart team that really wants to take you down. Who doesn't want to beat the number 1 team? Who doesn't want to be a traditional rival? LSU would fall into that category. That always feels good. So they have a lot of reasons to get excited tonight. Yeah, I was wondering if someone was going to bring this up, and I'm glad you said that it wasn't really his fault. It wasn't his fault. It was Chad Baker Mazara's fault. And I say that with all the love and respect for Chad Baker Mazara. Even the announcers on the TV pointed out. I think Pegues, unfortunately, got a bit of a victim of a lackadaisical pass from Chad on the inbounds, and it made him look bad. But that's really all the minutes he got tonight, and that's a shame, because I kind of realized, obviously, I think most of you are figured it out, or maybe someone's brought it up in the chat by now, that Ja'Kai Howard did not play tonight after the incident in the game of having to go to the locker room early and stuff like that. And look, we're not going to spend a lot of time talking about that tonight, because it's been addressed by coach. They're handling it. He's on the team, all that good stuff. So no really need to go there. But what that does, obviously, there's probably some room for discipline of some sort and not playing. You see that tonight, and that's reflected in that he's not on that sheet. But it opens up opportunities for JP Pegues. It opens up opportunities for Turtle Hudson. Now, obviously, 2 different positions, and I wouldn't even say they play his position, but because he's out of the traditional rotation, more opportunities abound. Step in Jaheim Hudson, Turtle, who makes really good work of the time that he was given this evening. So happy to see him. Tommy says still not shooting like they should. The game looks sloppy, but he's still happy with a W. I think certainly you can make that case at the beginning of the game, really. It got a little bit better as time went on. We'll look at team stats in just a little bit. It's a road game in the SEC this year. It's not an excuse. It's just the reality. That stuff's going to happen on the road against an SEC team. The important thing is Auburn is showing it can overcome those deficits, those problems that they have when it happens. Okay. Anything else individually that we haven't discussed? Certainly bring that up. I do not want to miss giving out shout outs and seeing a good friend in there again with his traditional post he brings in to make me laugh. WT wants to ask, did Denver lead in steals? I think he had 4. Some others had 3. Loving the defense. We were going to talk about defense some more in the team stuff, but let's certainly look at Denver. I think that's a great point, kind of going back to when someone brought up earlier about Tahad should start, and this is usually in relation to over Denver Jones. Let's look. So Denver Jones tonight, steals. He has 4 total steals tonight, which is what you said. And I'm not sure if I've got it can quickly bring it up who would lead in that category. I would bet he's high up there if he's not leading. His defense and his ability to score is very valuable and is an important reason why he continues to start out there. And I hope that people recognize that over time. So a good shout out for Denver Jones tonight, but certainly the story again continues individually for Janai, for obviously Miles Kelly early on, and several others tonight who made some big things here. Yeah, Micah, good to see you, man. I see you in the chat there a little bit. He's here to cause problems from time to time. Okay, going a little bit more towards team stuff, but first, here's the breakdown for each of the halves for you. Auburn went into the end of the first half, 41-29. The score is 46-45 in the second half. So Auburn barely keeps the lead there, but obviously by the end of it, maintaining and adding one to their lead they had at halftime. The resulting score is 87-74. This is not a domination by Auburn. It also is not a scary one at the end. Auburn was in control, and that's about all you can ask for by the end of the game on the road in the SEC this year. Okay, let's look at some team stats. You know exactly where I'm going. All of you regulars here, you know we're talking about the big 3. 1, 2, 3. 3 free throws, turnovers, and rebounds. Let's see how Auburn did. Free throws tonight. Neither team made it to my high water mark of 80%. Auburn does win that battle, barely 71%. Not terrible. I have high expectations. 15 of 21. Maybe like 2 more of those, 3 more of those, and we have a much better percentage. So they win that category. Auburn dominates in the turnovers category, meaning they only gave up 9. LSU had 20 turnovers this evening. So they win that one as well. And really, LSU did a good job of creating not so bad a deficit in rebounds. It ends up being 47-34, which is still pretty big, but it could have been much worse the way Auburn was getting offensive rebounds and not doing anything with it to start off the game. But those are your big 3. Auburn wins all 3, pretty a little bit closer in some, but a comfortable margin in another. And obviously, I think that reflects itself in how the game goes. Those are the 3 most important stats that you will see in every single game. Yes, the turnovers on winning any category related to turnovers on the road is going to put you in a really good position to win over time. Now, let's look at this a little bit here. Some other things. Tonight, Auburn did not start off the game shooting well at all, but ends up with 40% overall, 32% from the 3-point arc. That's almost 1 out of every 3. So not lovely, but it could be a lot worse. LSU does eclipse Auburn in all those categories and still cannot overtake the Tigers and still loses by double digits. What is that a reflection of? The defense. 2 games in a row, Auburn's defense came to play and certainly makes the difference here. A couple more things for you guys in team stats. Points off of turnovers. We already mentioned how many turnovers they had, that being LSU, the 20. 22 for Auburn points off of turnovers, 12 for LSU. Second chance points, 20 for Auburn, 14 for LSU. We already mentioned at the top of the show, 15 steals for Auburn, 7 for LSU. So all of those together, really, you could say those are the stat together of the game because they are kind of reflective of each other. How much LSU gave up the ball, how much Auburn took it away, how much Auburn maximized off of those opportunities, and a lot of that coming from just pickpocketing people and taking advantage of poor passing and passing lanes and things like that. So a great showing statistically at the very least, and I think in performance as well by the defense. I would like to call out at least 2 times tonight, Auburn once again showed that they are just deadly on inbounding the ball for opposing teams, or they defending the inbounds. 2 times they had to call timeouts, one in the first, one in the second half. So that continues to be something that Bruce Pearl has made his bread and butter, and it continues to show up. Other team stats this evening to look at. What haven't we talked about? Second chance points. We already mentioned that one. Bench points tonight. It's not that big of a margin. Auburn wins 24-18. Points in the paint, 40-28. Pretty good margin there for Auburn. Fast break points. It's ironic. LSU wins this one 18-20. Blocks, they win 9-4. And assist, pretty good night for Auburn. 16 assists, only 10 for LSU. And Auburn obviously led the majority of the way, almost 30 minutes tonight that they led. Once they got the lead, they never gave it back. And that's the important thing, right? Not how you start, but it's how you finish this evening. So what other individual stories about players specifically, about performances in this, anything that we haven't discussed in relation to Auburn versus LSU that you all would like to talk about this evening? I don't think that we have missed anything particularly here. WT says, I'm glad you said that. It seemed like the inbound defense stepped up tonight after being lackluster in the recent games. It might have been, but could it be that we set such a high standard for that when it doesn't do as well, it just seems terrible? I mean, I think there's no better, obviously getting a turnover off the inbounds is the ideal situation, but there's no other better description of that you're having great inbound defense than forcing them to call timeouts and use those up. Tommy says that he thinks that Broome was limping a lot. Obviously, we've been here with you the whole time after the game, so I haven't had an opportunity to see Coach's press conference at the end. So your guess is as good as mine, Tommy. But look, the dude played 32 minutes in the game where we were very questioning he would be in, that being Tennessee. He starts tonight, leads the team in minutes this evening, has a double-double, leads in points by a wide margin. He's going to be sore. He's going to be hurting a little bit. I think it probably helped that he had a quote-unquote extra day since we've been playing a lot of Tuesday night games to get ready from that game. Certainly it'll be interesting to see how he feels after this game. And Devin says, I didn't notice him limping. I wouldn't call it limping. I think what maybe Tommy's suggestion just did not seem 100% on it. And I would agree with that there was a little bit cautiousness at times, but it didn't really matter. That was him being not 100% and being cautious and getting 26 points. I mean, how crazy is that? Look, we are starting to get inundated with a lot of insecure Duke trolls on various platforms that realize that there is someone that has a case over their boy Cooper Flagg, and it's continuing to show that. So when they feel the need to come over there and say that, it's just it just speaks to how good he's actually doing. I think Micah brings this up, that the commentators did mention that. I do remember that, Micah, and so that's a good reminder. And look, how could it not? How could it not bother him a little bit? You're going to tweak things throughout the game, and especially it's already a little bit weaker. The reality is it didn't matter. And he seems to be okay. We'll find out, though, if there's anything else to mention about that from Coach, I'm sure. Okay, we are sitting at, we got enough time left. So let's do this. Next part of the show, we'll talk about what's up next. focus on that a little bit, cover anything that's left here. So if there's something we haven't discussed from this game about the team, about an individual, storylines, please put that in there. We will look forward just a little bit and talk about that. But first, remind you of a few things, what you've got to look forward to here next at E2C Network if you enjoy post-game streams. Hey, we got more for you. Auburn versus Ole Miss. That'll be this Saturday right after the game. I can't remember off the top of my head. I feel like it's going to be 4 o'clock or something like that, 4:15. But right after the game, just like we're doing here, join us for Auburn versus Ole Miss. This Sunday, episode 112 of the Auburn Experience podcast at 9 Eastern time. Join us for that live recording, and you can hang out and talk with us in our Q&A portion of the show right after that. It's always a good time. Keep in mind, we'll also be doing post-game show next week on Tuesday and a Wednesday night Auburn family night, because this is taking the place of that this evening because, hey, we know where everybody's interest is tonight. Let's talk about basketball and what just happened. And thankfully, your Tigers are victorious. Tommy's celebrating being 19-1. Is that legitimately it? Is that really a record? Somebody pinch me. Your only loss is to Duke at Cameron Indoor. I mean, other than being perfect, I don't know how you get any better of a record at this time of the year. It's absolutely incredible. Looking forward, we mentioned it. We'll do a post-game stream. This road trip continues for Auburn. We've got Ole Miss next up, and I believe, I can't remember if they're currently ranked or not. I think they are, but they said 4 of the next 5 on the TV broadcast are considered at this time quad 1 wins. Vanderbilt is in that. Because we got to go to that monstrosity of a place. But next up is Ole Miss. Either way, whether it's a quad 1 win or not, which I believe it is going to be a tough place to play. Auburn and Ole Miss have had some pretty intense, testy, touchy, just very emotional games over the last, really dating back several coaches for them, Kermit Davis and Andy Kennedy and Marshall Henderson. So we'll play them twice this year. They are one of the 3 teams that we get to play twice. So 2 cracks at each other. They get the first shot in the pavilion. It is going to be a tough matchup. Thank you, Devin, for the reminder that they are currently listed at 23 will be when we play them. So likely, I believe that falls into the category of a quad 1 win because especially it's on the road and that we have to do that. Let's see here. Stay undefeated until the 15th. That would be nice, wouldn't it? A lot of people are looking towards that matchup. Tuscaloosa will have never seen ticket prices like that for a single day in its life. It's going to be crazy. WT, it is crazy being 19-1 after so many years of hoping we can get close to a 21 season. Coach Pearl is a genius and does it quite often these days. I've said it once. I'm going to say it again. If you are still someone that does not believe that you should take every SEC team seriously, tonight again proves that statement correct. I don't care if they're at the bottom of the standings. I don't care if they're on a bad streak, especially if it's on the road. You need to believe that Auburn, even as good as they are playing, even as good as they clearly are, that they are susceptible to falling on the road in the SEC this year. If it were not for guys like Janai Broome and several other efforts like the defense tonight, some other key players, this could have gone a certain way with LSU making at least certain points in the game a lot of their 3-pointers. So you got to remember that this is going to be a fight down to the finish for Auburn and every SEC team this year. Dumb and Beaten Lake says, win your home games and you win your away games. Yeah, you do. WT, from now until the end of the season, there is not an easy team on the schedule. I agree 100% with that, and a good way to round it out. Everyone wants to beat number 1. The target is only growing on Auburn, and they're continuing to step up to the challenge at hand of holding that moniker. Okay, 87-74 is your score. The big stat that we brought up to you this evening for us was that 15-7 winning margin on steals for Auburn over LSU. And the big storyline is having Janai Broome back in the starting lineup, back in leading minutes, and once again, as he still did last game, but in big numbers, 26 points, 16 rebounds, a double-double in 33 minutes of play. He's back. May not be 100% fully, but he's looking like the National Player of the Year once again. Your Tigers are victorious over the faux Tigers, getting the win over an old arch foe, the LSU Bayou Bengals. Thank you guys so much for hanging out and spending this evening talking Auburn basketball with us and discussing the Auburn experience. Until we talk to you again, War Eagle.